welcome to the NaNoWriMo vlog! Give me a little bit and I'll sit down and we can actually really talk about what I'm going to be working on during this entire Nano. Very excited. Tomorrow I have my second job interview. Very nerve-wracking, so I would like to get the first like 2 or 3 chapters done of book 2. So that is the plan. And once again, I'll sit down and I'll really talk to you guys what it's about. Alright, I'm sitting down to get started writing. We are starting, so basically what this Nano is all about is GSR. We're working on book 2. One ends on an interesting angle, and I always knew there was going to be more, even at the end of that when I have to end of book 1 type of thing. We are working on book 2. Book 2 is completely outlined, for the most part, somewhat detailed outlined. I was having a dream last night, and a part of that dream, before it switched over to something else, was a pretty detailed sequence that will be in the first 5 chapters of this book that we're going to be writing going forward. I'd like to write the first 2 chapters, possibly 3 chapters today, only because I would like to be a little bit further ahead, just in case I have to fall back a little if I start my job and stuff, because I'm not really sure how that's going to work, and we got to figure out writing in with the job and stuff. And yeah, I don't know if today is like the best day to do that or not, to try to bump us ahead, but we are going to surely try. I'm sitting down to do my first 20-minute sprint. Like, word count wise for this book, we are looking anywhere between 20 to 30k is the hope. I'm hoping for more closer to 30k in reality here, and let's get real. We should be more, like, if it's a little under, like if it's 23,000 or even maybe like less than that or whatever. I'm accepting what I'm accepting. It's essentially what we're doing, just for the simple fact that I really just need these books done, and if they're a little underwritten, I can always go back and add everything else I need to add in a future draft. I just really want the initial bones and structure down, because I tend to get that done pretty well. It's everything else that just needs to be plussed and added. I'm sitting down, I have my everything ready, everything is set up on my Scrivener document, which is great. We're gonna be writing in Comic Sans. I write in everything Comic Sans. I just tend to write faster that way. That is the plan. I'll update you guys soon. Being here and close out day 1 for Nano. I don't know the next time I'll talk to you, but we'll figure it out. Today I finished the first chapter, which was the goal. That is the initial goal. I was gaming for like the first 2 chapters, which the second chapter I think is going to be like 1,000 words. Really, that's probably tomorrow's goal. We have 1,928 words, which is fucking phenomenal. I absolutely love that. We got a little bit above. I came in here and I wrote the end of chapter scene 3, and that put us above, which is great. Very exciting. There's also, like, I really loved the opening of the 3rd scene. So the end of the 1st scene I didn't really care for, so I'll have to have a change up or a rewrite or whatever. And the 2nd scene I felt pretty solid about. I thought, like, I described the characters really well. I'm doing a thing this time around which will probably end up changing and maybe being more added on in draft 2 of this book, and probably the 3rd book I'll probably do something very similar, and that is doing somewhat of a blank room syndrome, which I really hate. I like knowing exactly what a room looks like. I normally am, especially because this is a 3rd-person book, so it's not like a 1st-person book, but I'm a big setup. Like, I will set up a room and I'll tell you the whole entire like placement of the room in the first like probably 8 paragraphs of being inside that setting, and then I'll let the scene play out as normal. That way you guys have a very good idea, and it has a picture in the back of your mind. You can visualize everything going on and things, and I think it brings a good atmosphere. That's normally what my writing is like. Sometimes that changes. It really depends on the style of the book. This one, especially in the last 2 scenes, I very minimally talked about like the surroundings, which I didn't love, but also I didn't hate. It really was a mixed bag in my opinion, so we'll see if we end up buffing up that chapter even more in a future draft. But that being said, moving on to chapter 2, which only has 2 scenes, and so I think we can definitely do that and start working into chapter 3 tomorrow without a problem. Welcome to day 2. My goal for today is to get chapter 2 and start chapter 3. I did finish scene 2, which was excellent. I'm very much enjoying this book. I think it's because I've been very much looking forward to writing these first 5 chapters of this book for like a month now. The moral of the story here, I'm really looking forward to this book. There's a lot of elements in here that have been really fun. I'm really excited to play with, and it's making me more excited for book 3, where I get to like really flesh out those new elements that I'm introducing here. We're on a good track, which is great. So I'm gonna come here and update you guys. Today is day 3. I wasn't gonna update you guys. I was gonna wait until like 2 or 3 days until we hit 10k. I think that was gonna be like my big update would be like 10k. We're about to hit 5k. We'll hit 5k before the end of the day. And things are up with 984 words. And we're here and we're working through scene 3 of chapter 3. And I think I figured out like one of my big issues outside of being just mentally drained from yesterday's work interview. Essentially, I think it's because we're in a location I've never been and I didn't do any research for it. So essentially, I kind of picked the location in a chapter. I was writing it, and it's like there's parts of the outline I'm not following as you do. And it came up in a conversation. I was like, okay, but I gotta figure out if our end goal is this place, which is not even technically our end goal. I just need a place to have an end goal. How do we get there, and where can we get there from the location or whatever? One of those places might not even say the same is Milan, for instance. And I've never been to Milan. I've actually never done really research. I've seen some fashion shoots and stuff on the internet from it, but that's about it. It's the lowest of lows I can go. And also, there's a career that's being introduced here that's only, part of me is like, I don't need to spend 17 hours researching how this would actually work, just because it's not a huge point. But also another part of me is like, yeah, but don't you want your characters to feel accurate, and don't you want if you're doing a novel, that would require the characters to do all the research. You should also probably put forward. So before we do draft 2, I will have to do research into this thing that takes up only the first like 6,000 words of the manuscript. I think I'm just stressing about the little things. So there's a handful of scenes in this book that are chapters that only have 2 scenes, and I wonder on rewrite or on draft 2, I'm going to add an extra scene to these chapters to try to figure out, because like here's the thing, the first chapter in scene 4, which is the next thing I need to write, because I did finish chapter 3 by the way, we're up to 1,514 words for the day, 5,114 words overall. Very excited, didn't realize how close those numbers were already to. This next scene will be super duper short, I feel like. I mean, it's more introducing more characters and stuff, and then we have things like scene 2, okay, of chapter 3, which is by far the first scene that I don't like of this book, that I just love to just like trash and rewrite, honestly. I really liked how scene 3 came out for the most part, maybe not towards the end, but I like most of scene 3, and I definitely enjoy, yeah, it's just really scene 2. Yeah, scene 2, basically. Scene 2 I had a hard time starting, and so I think that's the reason why when you don't start on a good foot, you need to redo the intro to that scene like 4 or 5 times to figure out the right placement of where to begin. Because I was trying to place it after a certain thing, and I placed it before, and now I'm thinking maybe it should have been after. But then again, I don't know. It's so interesting because like a part of me feels like maybe we should have just started it here and then shown this event instead. So I do wonder in a future rewrite if that scene will change directly. Writing in locations that you don't know. Hard. I persevered. I wrote it as if I did know it, and then we'll fix it in edits. We are up to 620 words for the day, which is the entirety of scene 3. So, scene 3 I've been nervous to write from the beginning. I've been excited to write it, but I've been nervous. We had a reveal. Our first big twist of the novel. I mean, that's all I can really say about it, but it's so exciting. And like, it's kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie to you, because like this is like something I've been building up to for a while now. So like I had so much fun like writing it. It's kind of bittersweet, but I had a lot of fun writing it. We finished chapter 5. So now we're taking a big left turn. As one does. And now we're beginning chapter 6. Chapter 6 is more in the lines, chapter 6 through 10 or 11 are more in the lines of what I think most people were expecting from the sequel, not from what they were getting. So chapters 1 through 5 are something kind of fun and out there. And then chapter 6 is more like, okay, so this is what I'm signing up for. And then chapter 7 or chapter 11 through 15 are still under those lines, but then we add in like an extra, ooh, what is going to happen next type of thing. So I think it works out really nicely because I think you get the best of both worlds, where most of the book is I think what people are wanting and are what are expecting from the sequel, but also like, not that there's people yet, but I think what people would want. We're getting into that section, which is making me a little anxious, but I'm happy for these like 5 minutes sprints for me just getting like a taste of it, so I can't be super anxious about it and I can continue just working on it. My goal I guess today was to finish chapter 5, which I did do. So technically, my goal is done. Alright, hi. Today is day 7 of NaNoWriMo, and I just want to quickly talk about how this book is turning darker than I expected. There's been a slight sequence that was really, like, I could see being disturbing to some, and then the talk of a child has also been super interesting to write this scene. So, that's all. I'm hoping we're gonna hit 10k, so I'll come in and I'll update you guys that we hit 10,000 words. 10,000 words in our manuscript today, guys. Yes, we did. Which is great. That's excellent. You're also about the halfway mark, which is also excellent. Moral of the story here is we're up to 1,726 words for the day on November 7th. I am updating every day. The only badge it doesn't look like I'm going to get will be hitting the word count goal every day because I couldn't accept the lie. I should have just accepted the lie. But yesterday I was trying to erase that new, like, big point, which I surpassed. But I couldn't hit it. I couldn't do it, and then I couldn't just write a whole other set of words on top of it was the issue. bit of a struggle, but I say I've hit over the word count goal for Nano. I've also hit over the word count goal for like if I'm just trying to hit this, like finish this book in 15 days. All those things are done. We can move forward, but I haven't hit the chapter goal yet. I have 2 more scenes of this chapter. I just started writing the second scene. I don't necessarily think they're gonna be very big, but they are extremely important scenes. The third scene confirms something from the first book that is a bit of a question that you're like, okay, it's basically confirmed at the end of the first book, but then you truly know it's confirmed in this scene. So it's somewhat important, but it doesn't have to be super long. It can be like 400 words or something like that, which is good. Whereas this other scene, this new scene, I'm introducing a very important overarching character for the next 2 books. I'll talk to you guys soon. I think it's only fair that I take you on this ending of this journey just because I took you throughout the whole day. We are done with the day. We wrote 2,196 words with 11,676. I did not finish chapter 7. I have 1 more scene in it. I'm hoping, a relatively short scene. I also don't love... I made it very unique, very specific. So I need to change some of the environment for this previous scene that I wrote. So it has 1 tiny little detail. Like it's minute, but it's very important for the overarching story. So I had to change that like 1 detail, and then we're back to good. Also, I'm excited to, I think, move past some of these scenes and get into some of the good stuff for the 3rd act. Like, I think that's also, like, the middle pacing of it. Nothing bad, nothing horrible. So, gonna chip at it. So excited to chip out tomorrow. I want to come here and update you guys on Nano. Today is day 13. Do my writing for the day. That's the last thing I can actually, like, postpone my writing for, I guess. I figured out a few things, I think, that are causing some issues with the writing, and I want to very quickly just mention that. One of those is this book follows a few different POVs, and I think my head wants to go back to a certain POV that we followed really closely, and I don't think I like this middle POV. I think the story is just not panning out how I originally had planned, and I think that's also kind of diminishing some of the funness of it. I don't really love this middle section of this book, and I think in my brain I just want to make it better, and I just want to stop, go back, reread, rewrite, and make it better. Not the important part. As long as I get the structure of the ideas out of my head, then I should be fine to move forward. So I'm really excited to move out of this middle section and jump into that 3rd act. I think the 3rd act I'll come back around to. I mean, if anything, like book 1, once I got to a certain point, I was done. I was zooming. How you guys doing? A Nano update. So we're up to 15,520 words, 2,097 words. Some of the big things I want to talk about in this update. I figured out a new song to listen to for the promenade with time. I made a playlist about 30 minutes long, and none of those songs are like truly hitting. Either I was getting too distracted by them, such as Taylor Swift Volt songs, which are amazing, but I just can't write to it yet. Writing to Rodrigo's new song for the new Hunger Games movie. Now we're back to Rodrigo's cover of Stick Season, because I put Stick Season on my thing because I needed a final song, and I was like, that's a great song, we'll write to that. And I like Noah Kahan's version, the original, but there's just something about Olivia singing to me that makes me focus, and so I got really focused, and so it's working. I finished chapter 9. It came in very short, and I finished 10. And some of the big things I took away is I need to do a bit of a deep dive into one of the bigger characters that get introduced. And then I also, I've been talking about how there's like a few different characters in this book. And part of me regrets writing this in 3rd person because of the 3rd person angle would have been easier. But I like the challenge of it, so I guess in a way I'm also challenging myself. 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, which is 5 chapters. Tomorrow I'm hoping to write 3. And leave 2 for Wednesday, but it could be the opposite effect. I don't really know. We'll see. So far, I end up writing 2,097 words, which is the most I've written. We succeed and we lose some, right? So I'm about to go do a walk, think. If you don't know what this is, and you guys are a writer, this is a lifesaver. Today's day 14. 2nd week of Nano is complete, which is kind of crazy, and I didn't really realize it was like happening when it was happening, but it makes so much sense. 2nd week of Nano is always the hardest for me personally. It should be an upward battle. But I'm about to do a walk tank because I'm not really sure if I like the trajectory or how we're going to get there. 1, I think there might be a little too many flashbacks. There's already been quite a few different flashbacks throughout this particular story, and I don't know if I need to rehash what you already know, and so I might be able to cut that final chapter down into something different, into something better. I think there was a character choice that I originally made when outlining that I've taken out of the novel completely, and so the character action that could be happening in my chapter, I think it's chapter 13, I don't think makes sense anymore. And so I really have to reevaluate that entire thing because I don't think it would make sense. And I also don't think it would make sense for a lot of things. I was really excited to introduce a character that's never been introduced before. Like to have that character. I guess that character has now been introduced. Was not originally in the first drafts of the first book. I think that character's name is Paul. That's all I'll say. In case somebody hasn't read the book, you're like, oh, Paul. He has like 2 lines in the first book, but he's there. He is there too, so I forgot about that. But I was excited to introduce Paul I guess. And then I don't really think Paul is gonna be necessary. I don't think Paul is gonna be there. I think I just really need to go back and really figure out the ending. I have a very clear image of the last picture, the last thing I'm gonna be describing to the book. Everything else before that point kind of open. So we're gonna let my thing do the job, and then if I come up with all the ideas and all my answers that I'm hoping for, book 3 is really shaping into be something completely different from the original outline, and I have to make sure. The first 5 chapters I think are going to stay pretty solid, but everything past that point, we into an open game, bitch. I really don't know. I mean, I know what the end game point of that book is. It's crazy. Either way, so I'm planning on doing that. Update. Think walk worked really well. Outline the rest of the book, so that's great, and I'm okay with that just being what this walk was for. But I did. There was a point in this scene where I introduced a little character simply just here to basically, it's hard to talk about and explain, but I'm going to try to do it in the best way possible. So I have a character. I've talked about, obviously, throughout these days, 3 characters. We're back to the first character. This first character is having a bit of a mind crunch. That's all I'll say. It's a mind problem that he's having. We have seen a different character pop up several times, and this other character is what's kind of causing all these problems for our main character. And so they're talking about it with this other character who just showed up. 458 words with this new character, which I really like. I really love this portion of that scene. The issue being here, the scene needs to be about 500 words. The only good part about having a longer scene is that sometimes you can balance it out. This is a scene 1, so it's opening with a longer scene, so sometimes the pacing doesn't feel off because of it. It's a problem because I'm not done with it yet. This was actually, I wrote a problem at the moment of trying to figure out where the best place to start a scene, and so I wrote a brief scene outline obviously for it, and then I was like, oh no, I don't like where that scene starts in the outline, so I'm gonna start before it, or I'll start a little bit after it, just trying to figure out the right pace. Yeah, because you don't want something to feel like it's dragging on for too long, but you also don't want something to feel like you're there before way before it needs to happen. So I wrote for 25 minutes and almost wrote 1,000 words, which is great. We're up to 19,619 words, which is also great. It's over 2,000 words for the day. I couldn't tell you because the way my structure of this is working. The moral of the story here is scene 2 ended up being 1,047 words. We still have one more scene. Hi, I want to come here and give you guys an update. So first things first is writing is going great today, which is amazing. I'm going to continue writing. It's about to be midnight. And we're just here, we're going to watch a YouTube video, then sprint, watch a YouTube video, then sprint. And we're just going to keep going back and forth until I hit the end of this book. I do have a limit. I think the limit's 2 a.m. I have to be up early, so I can't stay up super late, but I can at least get a few more hours of writing in, which is the plan. I've learned that GSR book 3, which was the original plan to write for the rest of Nano, because I could write both. They logically could fit in Nano, no doubt. I think I'm gonna start drafting it in January instead of my beginning of January project, only because GSR draft 3, I need to really do a good outline for that. I research a little bit more, digging in my history of this world a little bit before it can become really concrete. That's a big reason why GSR is the way GSR is. Fabulous update. Today's day 17 in the Nano world, and we are currently sitting at 21,547 words. Both exciting and it's a fine number. We're getting awfully close. Part of the reason why this is taking me so much longer, I was going to try to finish it yesterday, and I didn't end up having time yesterday to really write. I wrote 333 words actually during the day. That's basically a summary of what I want to happen in that scene, because I was so out of it. So we'll see how many words this gets us. I'm not so much focused on word count anymore. I'm just focused on getting the story out. So if each scene comes in 400, 500 words, that's fine. I'm hoping for nothing below a 400 number, but we can deal with what we can deal. And editing. That can be an editing Jacob's problem. This book is already gonna give me enough problems, so we can just put more on it. And the ultimate goal is to finish this today. I'm giving myself till 6 o'clock. It's 4 o'clock right now to finish this book. I'm giving myself 2 hours. I have a Cattastic, her old writing vlogs pulled up because truly, inspiration. Cattastic and Christina Rico are my 2 biggest inspiration people that I draw from. I have one of Christina Rico's books over there. You can see it next to Winger. That's better together. Not my favorite. That being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into some writing, and I will update you at 5 o'clock. A bit of an update. It's now 5 o'clock. We're currently up to 22,685 words. I've written a total of 1,410 words of the day. And we are currently writing scene 3. I don't think it's going to be too much longer. Scene 1 and scene 3. Scene 3 objectively might just be a short scene, but scene 1 definitely needs buff. Scene 3 is working. for me for sure. Scene 2 ended up being about 1,000 words. Definitely got back into the flow in scene 2, and I really liked how some of the things, there's some reviews in there, a little bit of a hint towards the final chapter as well, because once again we are in the climax of this story. Normally with books you're supposed to, it's the percentage is supposed to be bigger, but with novellas everything kind of gets divided up differently because you have a shorter amount of word count and time to develop everything like purposely. I wrote the climax of the story, I did that. We are now in the conclusion and going through the resolution. The only difference being this is a series that ends on cliffhangers and things, mostly to kind of keep you to turn that page, right, to pre-order the next book or whatever it might be. This book is it's building up to an ending that will not be satisfactory. There are a few reveals throughout the book that I think are satisfactory, but I would definitely declare book 2 as the most like questions based. There are a lot of things that don't get wrapped up in this book, and there's a lot of things that don't get wrapped up from the first book. All those things really do get wrapped up in the third book. So that was like something I'm kind of having to play around with. Inching closer, I have to finish the scene, and then we are in the final chapter, which is pretty fucking cool. So it's been a few hours since I've updated you guys. We've written a total of 2,501 words for the day, which is pretty crazy to me, if you ask me, because this is a very rough draft, but I think it's going to come in about 25k, and I best believe this book is probably going to be around 27k, which would be the goal anyways once we go into revisions, which I think revisions for this book will probably happen after I finish revisions for book 1 again for draft 3, but that's a different story for a different day. This one, we're currently writing the first scene of the final chapter, which is fucking crazy. And the way this is going to work, I'm going to update you guys when I'm done. Just completely done with the whole damn thing. Hopefully it's going to take me like 40 minutes. I don't know. We're putting a stopwatch on. I'm just going to write and write and write and write. We're going to finish book 2 of this series, which is crazy. So we're 17 days in. I finished my book. It came in at a whopping total of 25,455 words. And I wrote 4,000 and some odd change today. But with that being said, I am so excited to continue working in these projects. So GSR book 2 is very much what I like to call a rough draft. Normally when I write a rough draft, I try to make it pretty clean. I like to have my first draft to be readable because I do have a few people in my life who like reading a first draft of my work. I don't know why. I didn't tell them to. It's just something that they enjoy doing. And so with GSR book 2, I texted them. I was like, you can't have this. There's too many names missing, brackets, placements, or whatever notes of things I want to change, voices in general. There's like a lot of like GSR book 1. I feel like when I jumped into draft 2 of GSR book 1, I really did feel like I was jumping into a draft 2. This second draft will go through a reread, we'll go through a restructural outline, then another restructural thing, and then I'll be going through it, and then we're going to be writing it on a different computer as well. I think that way, forced to do the writing, and I think I can definitely get it done. A lot of it will be copied over for sure, but I can whoosh things up and make things longer and do what I want to do with all those notes and edits. I have to go through the book and get all of my side notes and things and a bunch of other stuff, but ultimately speaking, the book is done. Hello, welcome back. This is the outro for NaNoWriMo. I'm coming in here to update you much in advance. I think the last day we talked was November 17th. I was working on Project Sarah. I'm dedicating a whole other video to that just because I ended up finishing that book, and like I finished the book. So really this is like What's Right GSR book 2 together technically. But with that being said, I do want to quickly say that I did end up completing Nano. I got 51,269 words for the month of November, which is fucking insane in my brain, but that is what I did, which is great. It makes me so happy inside. Let me know if you guys completed Nano. Are you guys excited with how Nano turned out? Did you get all the words that you needed, if it was writing, drafting, revising, whatever it might be? I'm really excited to jump back into these projects. For instance, Project Sarah, I'm continuing to write into the beginning of December, like a section of it done that I was working on, which is super duper exciting. But that being said, yeah, thank you guys so much for going on this journey with me for Nano. Hopefully I did a good job documenting the experience up until, like I said, day 17, which I pretty much documented through TikTok and Shorts as well. So it's a lot of things you've already seen, but I hope you enjoyed the video nonetheless. And I'll tell you all next time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.